He dropped my sealed envelope into the gutter, laughing as his friends watched. I stayed silent, but moved my entire legacy with one stroke of a pen. By the time he realized what he had thrown away, it was already gone forever. Before we continue, please subscribe to the channel and let us know where you're listening from in the comments. My name is Gerald. I am 75 years old. The street was alive with a certain kind of rhythm only autumn in Chicago could bring. You could hear the faint honk of traffic merging near Wabash, the whistle of the L train rumbling a few blocks over. The breeze carried scents of roasted peanuts from a vendor cart and the sharp tang of cold air, thick with exhaust and fallen leaves. The light flickered golden through the thin trees, casting long, delicate shadows on the cracked pavement. I stood by the curb on Main Street, near the bus shelter outside the old public library. My cane rested against my leg, and in my hand was a small white envelope. Neat, carefully sealed. It had my handwriting on the front, addressed to a firm in Oak Brook. My fingers trembled slightly, not from the cold, but from everything inside that letter. Beside me stood my grandson, Jackson, 14, too cool for sweaters, too distracted to look me in the eye. His phone buzzed every few seconds, lighting up with emojis and rapid-fire texts from friends I'd never met. I handed him the envelope gently. Me. Could you drop this in the mailbox across the street? It's important. Very personal. He looked at it like I'd handed him a dead moth, then glanced sideways. His friends were on the opposite corner, laughing about something, filming one another with their phones. I saw his face shift. Embarrassment, irritation, calculation. Jackson. Yeah, sure. He took the envelope, walked toward the mailbox, only he veered to the side. As he neared the storm drain, he flicked the envelope like trash. It slid through the metal grates, swallowed whole into the gutter below. Laughter. His friends cheered. He turned back toward me with a smirk, triumphant in his small rebellion. I didn't move. My face didn't change. But inside me, something folded shut. Me. All right. That's all I said. I picked up my cane, nodded once, and began walking toward the corner. My shoes scraped softly against the sidewalk. A gust of wind blew a soda cup past my feet. Behind me, Jackson shouted to his friends and jogged away without a second glance. People kept moving. A jogger brushed past me, headphones in. A couple waited for their Uber beside the ice cream shop. Nobody saw what happened. Or maybe they did. Nobody cared. By the time I reached the crosswalk, I was already thinking ahead. The letter was gone, yes, but the real one was still in my briefcase, inside the manila folder marked Trust 5A. What Jackson had thrown away was a test, and he'd failed it. Back at home, I hung up my coat, folded it neatly on the hall chair, and sat by the fireplace. I watched the flames rise behind the glass. A stack of family photos sat on the shelf above. My late wife, Ruth, smiling beside me on a pier in Wisconsin. Jackson, younger, cheeks rounder, holding a toy train. Emily, his mother, my daughter, with her arm looped around my shoulder during her college graduation. They all stared back at me, frozen in time. Loyal, warm. I leaned forward slowly and opened the side drawer of my desk. Inside, my documents sat exactly where I'd left them. Wills. Property deeds. Copies of our bakery's ownership shares, still in my name. Everything waiting for one final update. People think silence is surrender, but silence is a blade, sharp when used right. The next morning, I called my attorney. Me. Charles, I need to make a change, urgently. Charles. Another revision to the trust? Gerald, we just finalized the last... Me. There's been a development. He understood without pushing further. We arranged a meeting for Thursday, just past noon. Oak Street office, third floor. I would bring everything. That evening, Emily called. Emily. Hey, Dad, Jackson told me you gave him something, a letter? Me. Yes, but he lost it. A pause. Shuffling sounds in the background. Probably dishes being rinsed. Emily. He said it wasn't anything important, just some old letter. Me. That's one way to look at it. Emily. Are you upset? Me. Not upset, just clearer now. Another pause. Emily, we'll talk Sunday at lunch, okay? We're doing a cookout. Burgers, hot dogs, all that. Jackson's excited to show you something he's been working on for school. Me. Looking forward to it. I hung up and then returned to the letter drawer. People don't realize how loud betrayal is, even when it's quiet. That flick of his wrist at the gutter, it spoke volumes. It told me exactly who Jackson was becoming and what values he thought I stood for. Maybe I'd been too soft, too generous. Maybe he thought legacy was owed, not earned. But I wasn't angry. No, I was patient. I spent Wednesday collecting everything I needed: property tax documents, copies of our bakery's last 3 quarterly earnings. I had 2 notebooks filled with vendor contacts, recipe records, employee evaluations, the business that had fed our family for 4 decades. All of it still mine. The original trust draft sat there too, listing Jackson as primary beneficiary. Not anymore. Charles greeted me with firm hands and warm eyes, the kind of man who wore brown corduroy in October and always smelled like printer toner. Charles, you sure about this? Me, more sure than I've been about anything in a long time. We revised the documents together. The replacement beneficiary would be Olivia, my goddaughter, 28, smart, kind, respectful. She worked the night shift at our bakery when she was in college. Never once complained. Helped Ruth with errands when her arthritis got bad. Always asked about my blood pressure. By the time I left Charles's office, the folder was heavier than when I arrived, but my chest felt lighter. Sunday came. Emily's backyard smelled like grilled onions and lighter fluid. Kids ran across the lawn, throwing footballs. The adults sipped lemonade and wine. Plastic chairs creaked under laughter and gossip. I spotted Jackson near the fence, showing off some 3D project to his cousins. He didn't look my way. Emily, Dad, you made it! Me, wouldn't miss it. I handed her a bakery box with her favorite, pecan tarts, still warm. She hugged me tightly, maybe too tightly. Lunch passed in a blur of chatter and mustard stains. At one point, Jackson walked by. Jackson, hey, Grandpa. Me, hello, son. He didn't stop walking. By 3 o'clock, I tapped my glass with a fork. Conversations quieted, heads turned. Me, thank you all for having me. I won't take much of your time. I just want to share something important. I opened the folder. Inside was the notarized document. Freshly signed, witnessed, and sealed. But I didn't lift it yet. Instead, I reached into my coat pocket and pulled out the envelope. The twin of the one dropped into the gutter. Everyone watched. Me. Last week, I handed Jackson this letter. I asked him to deliver it. He didn't. And that choice has consequences. Emily shifted uncomfortably. Jackson looked confused. Me. Inside this envelope were legal papers. It was a symbolic test, a chance to show maturity, respect. I opened the envelope slowly, held up the page inside. Me. Jackson's name was on this trust. Was, past tense. Gasps. Some murmured. Jackson stepped forward. Jackson. Wait. What? That was real? Me. It was everything. I turned to Charles, who had joined quietly and stood beside the garden bench. Me. Charles, would you do the honors? He lifted the new documents, read a portion aloud. The new name, the new beneficiary. County Court Record, number 2025 CV 11873, signed by Notary Public. Jackson looked at his mother. Jackson. Mom? Emily. Dad, please. He's just a boy. Me. So was I, when I built all this. I signed the papers on the table in front of everyone. No theatrics, just ink and truth. Jackson stood frozen, then turned and stormed off toward the driveway. No one followed. The backyard didn't feel like a celebration anymore. The smoke from the grill had thinned, replaced by a thick silence. You could still hear the ice melting in glasses and the faint rattle of someone shifting their chair, but no one said much. Eyes followed Jackson as he disappeared through the side gate, his shoulders rigid, fists clenched. The gate slammed behind him, then nothing. Emily stood with her arms folded, staring at the table where I had just signed away what Jackson thought would one day be his. Her husband, Mark, tried to play it cool, chewing on a piece of celery, but his eyes betrayed him, narrowed, calculating, already thinking of what they'd just lost. I remained seated. No apology, no regret, just truth, sitting heavy in the air like the scent of overcooked burgers and dry leaves. Olivia approached from the side, unsure. Olivia, Mr. Gerald, are you sure? I don't want to cause trouble. Me, you didn't cause it, you earned it. There's a difference. Her eyes glistened. She nodded and stepped back into the crowd, where a few of the older cousins whispered and stared. Not at her, but at me, like they weren't sure whether to be proud or afraid. I stood slowly, cane in hand, knees stiff from the chill. I didn't say another word. I didn't need to. The document had done the speaking for me. On the way out, I passed by the kitchen window. I saw Jackson inside, phone in hand, typing furiously. His face was red. Tears, rage, could have been both. I opened the gate and stepped into the fading afternoon. The wind had picked up again, sharp and slicing. I pulled my coat tighter and made my way down the block toward the bus stop, each step steady, purposeful. A few houses down, I heard footsteps. Emily, Dad, wait. I stopped but didn't turn. Emily, you blindsided us. You couldn't even talk to me first? Me, did Jackson talk to me before he threw it away? She hesitated. Emily, he's a teenager. They act stupid. Me, so did I once, but I learned to carry the weight of my decisions. She stepped in front of me now, arms folded, face flushed. Emily, you really going to cut him off? Just like that? Me, no, Emily, he cut himself off. She looked at the ground, kicked a small pine cone aside. Emily, he thought it was just some note. He didn't know. Me, that's the point. He didn't ask. He didn't care. She closed her eyes, and for a moment I saw the girl she used to be, sitting on the kitchen floor with scraped knees, begging for another scoop of ice cream. I had always given it to her, even when she didn't deserve it. But now I was done spoon-feeding entitlement. I walked away. Back home, the house was quiet, the kind of quiet that didn't beg for noise. I sank into the recliner and picked up the remote. Old westerns were playing on Channel 9 again, a black and white scene of a standoff. Two men staring across a dusty street. Felt familiar. I didn't sleep much that night. I watched the shadows shift across the ceiling. The ticking of the wall clock kept rhythm with my thoughts. Not regret, not sadness. Just wait. The kind of wait that came from finally doing what needed to be done. The next morning I stopped by the bakery. Olivia was already there. Flour on her sleeves. Her hair pulled into a messy bun. She looked surprised to see me. Olivia, you don't usually come in Mondays. Me, just checking on things. She handed me a coffee, black, no sugar. I hadn't asked. Me, you remembered. Olivia, of course. I took a seat near the window, watched as customers filtered in. A cop getting donuts for his squad. A teenager grabbing coffee before school. A mother wrangling two toddlers with one hand while digging through her purse with the other. Life, it keeps going. Olivia sat across from me, tentative. Olivia, so what happens now? With the business? Me, you learn, you take notes, you ask questions, you don't assume. Olivia, and Jackson? Me, he's got time to grow, but not on my dime. Her lips parted slightly, but she didn't argue. Me, this place, it fed 3 generations. It deserves someone who understands that. She nodded. That was enough. Later that week, I received an email from Jackson. Just a subject line. Really? I didn't open it. 2 days later, a handwritten note came in the mail, postmarked from our neighborhood. His handwriting was sloppy, rushed. Grandpa, I messed up. I didn't know what was in the letter. I thought it was just junk or something dumb. I was trying to look cool. I was stupid. I get that now. Can we talk? I stared at it for a long time, ran my thumb over the ink. There was a coffee stain in the corner. Probably wrote it in a rush. I didn't respond. Yet. I placed the letter in my desk drawer, just behind the revised trust papers. Later that day, I walked down Main Street again. The same sidewalk, the same gutter. It hadn't changed. There was still trash clinging to the edge, cigarette butts, an old gum wrapper. I looked down and whispered, "You really did throw it all away." The wind whipped my coat around my knees. A bus passed by, brakes squealing. And then I walked. The following Saturday came with a kind of quiet that only late October in Chicago can bring. The city hadn't yet decided if it was still fall or on the edge of winter. Leaves littered the sidewalks, clumped in corners like forgotten promises. I watched from my porch as a neighbor struggled with a plastic skeleton, trying to make it stand upright in their yard. It leaned sideways like it had given up on haunting anyone. I sipped my coffee, the steam curling up against the cold. Olivia would open the bakery in an hour. I'd promised to meet her there. Not because I needed to, but because I wanted to see how she handled things on her own. I arrived to find her already elbow deep in receipts and supplier forms. Me. Sleep at all? Olivia. 3 hours, 4 if you count the nap between batches. Me. You'll learn to nap with your eyes open eventually. She grinned without looking up. A light snow had started to fall outside the window. Just a dusting. Chicago's way of reminding you who's in charge. Me. Let's go over the schedule. I want you to understand the vendor cycles. Olivia. Already printed them, color-coded too. She handed me a sheet, highlighted, organized, even with notations about alternate distributors. Ruth would have liked her. Ruth hated waste, hated assumptions even more. I sat back. Me. You're taking this seriously. Olivia. It's not just flour and sugar, Mr. Gerald. This place means something. That sentence caught me off guard, not because it was profound, but because she said it like it was obvious. Later that day, I drove to the county clerk's office. The building was gray, brutalist, with peeling linoleum floors and the smell of old paper. I waited in line behind a woman arguing about parking tickets and a man trying to file a name change. When it was my turn, I handed over the documents. Me. I need these filed and registered. Clerk. Trust revision and transfer. Got it. Do you have a notary on record? Me. Already signed. Notary public stamped and included. County Court Record number 2025 CV 111873. She nodded, made a few notes, and told me I'd get confirmation in the mail within 10 business days. I thanked her, then walked out into the wind. Across the street was the same mailbox I had pointed to the week before, the one Jackson never reached. I stood there a long time. In the distance, a marching band practiced. Drums thudding, brass squealing slightly off key. Homecoming parade, probably. Life carried on with its own rhythm, indifferent to who got cut out of a will or who got their name added to one. That night I got a voicemail. Jackson. Grandpa, I'm sorry. I don't know what else to say. Mom's mad. Dad's quiet. I didn't mean for all this to happen. I messed up. I really messed up. Can we meet? I didn't call back. Not yet. Instead, I called Charles. Me. Has everything been confirmed? Charles. The trust? Yes. Olivia's officially the successor. Your name's still the owner on record. But once you're ready to transfer, she's next in line. Me. Good. Charles. You expecting pushback? Me. I'm expecting noise, but that's not the same as wait. He paused. Charles. You okay, Gerald? Me. Yeah, I'm okay. Just tired of handing out lessons without grading the tests. He chuckled. We hung up. That Sunday, the family was quiet during our regular dinner. No cookout this time, no backyard games, just casseroles and side glances. Jackson didn't show. Emily didn't speak unless spoken to. Mark asked about the Bears game, then went silent when no one replied. It was strange how fast the mood changed once money was no longer assumed. After dinner, I stayed behind to help Olivia close up the bakery. She was wiping down the glass display case. Olivia, you know he's scared, right? Me, he should be. Olivia, but also, he's a kid. They don't know what things mean until they've already broken them. I said nothing. She turned to me. Olivia, would you have given it to him if he'd just walked it across the street? Me, yes. Olivia, so you gave him the power to win or lose? Me, exactly. She nodded, biting her lip. Olivia, that's heavy. Me, it's called inheritance. Not a gift, not a prize, a weight, and it needs strong shoulders. That night I couldn't sleep again. The envelope kept flashing in my mind. Not the one Jackson threw away, but the one I kept. The real one. The one with both names. I opened the drawer and took it out. 2 documents inside. One had Olivia's name, dated, signed, sealed. The other had Jackson's. Still unsigned, still legal, still possible. But I left it there, in the dark. 3 days later, I received a knock. Jackson. Hair messy, eyes puffy, voice low. Jackson. Can I come in? Me. Doors open. He stepped inside like it was a courtroom. Jackson. I was wrong. Me. You were. Jackson. I don't know what I thought. Me. You thought you were above decency, above respect. Jackson. I thought I was being cool. Me. And now? Jackson. Now I feel like I set fire to a bridge I didn't even know I'd need. I looked at him for a long time. He wasn't fidgeting, wasn't checking his phone. He stood like a boy trying to become a man. Me. Why are you here? Jackson. To ask for a second chance. I nodded slowly, then reached for the drawer. His eyes widened when he saw the envelope. I held it out. Me. This is the real one. He didn't take it. Jackson. I'm not asking for that. I'm just asking for you. Those words, they hit. Not because they were perfect, but because they weren't practiced. I pulled the envelope back and placed it on the table. Me. Sit down. He did. I didn't say yes, didn't say no. We just sat. 2 generations, 1 table, and a single lesson lingering in the silence. We sat at that kitchen table for over an hour, neither of us in a hurry to fill the silence. The only sound came from the radiator, ticking against the baseboard, warming the corners of the room as the cold crept in from the windows. Jackson stared at his hands. I watched him, watched the way his chest rose and fell, slower than before. His mouth opened a few times like he wanted to speak, but nothing came out. I let the silence teach. Me. You know what I built this life on? Jackson shook his head, eyes still down. Me. Consistency. I opened the bakery at 5 a.m. every day, 6 days a week. Rain or snow, I paid my debts before the grace period. I greeted every customer, even the rude ones, with a good morning. He looked up. Me. Because respect doesn't start when you get something. It starts when no one's looking. He swallowed. Jackson. I thought being loud meant being seen. Me. Sometimes the ones who whisper get remembered longer. That landed. I pushed my chair back and stood. My knees cracked, and I winced. Jackson. You okay? Me. 75. You'll learn. I walked to the living room shelf, reached behind a photo frame, and pulled out a wooden box. I hadn't touched it since Ruth passed. Inside were smaller keepsakes. My father's cufflinks, a silver tie clip, a church bulletin from the day Emily was baptized, and a letter. Me. This is the first trust I ever received. From my father. It wasn't money, it was a note. He said, I trust you'll carry the weight I carried, or else put it down and walk away honestly. Jackson listened, lips pressed. Me. That's what I did. I carried it. I placed the note on the table beside the envelope bearing his name. His eyes flicked between the 2. Me. I want you to do something for me. Jackson. Anything. Me. Spend 1 week at the bakery, open to close, No phone, no excuses. You learn everything Olivia does. If you can do that without quitting, without rolling your eyes, without tossing anything in a gutter, you and I will talk again. He didn't hesitate. Jackson, I will. May. Good. Because legacy isn't handed over. It's tested. He nodded. The next morning he showed up at 4:50 a.m. Olivia wasn't thrilled. Olivia, you sure this is a good idea? Me. We'll see. If he messes up, it's on me. I watched through the bakery window as she handed him an apron. He tied it awkwardly. She handed him a broom. He swept like it insulted him. But he did it. Day 1 passed, no complaints. Day 2, he burned 2 trays of croissants. Olivia didn't yell. She made him clean the oven and start again. He did. Day 3, he forgot to restock the register and nearly shortchanged a customer. Olivia made him run the calculations by hand. He didn't quit. By Friday, he was mixing batter without looking at instructions. By Saturday, Olivia caught him whistling while mopping the floor. That night, she called me. Olivia. He's different. Not perfect, but trying. Me. That's all we ever are. On Sunday, the family gathered again. No ceremony this time. Just chili in the slow cooker and football on the TV. Jackson pulled me aside. Jackson. Can we talk? Me. Walk with me. We went down the block, passing the mailbox. He looked at it as we walked by. Jackson. I'm sorry. Me. I know. Jackson. I didn't get it, but now I think I do. We stood near the gutter. Me. You remember where you dropped it? Jackson. Right here. He pointed at the spot. The grate was clogged with leaves again. Jackson. I still feel like a fool. Me. Good. Shame teaches what praise can't. I reached into my coat pocket and pulled out the envelope. His envelope, still sealed. Me. You ready? He looked at it, and then at me. Jackson. Can I do one thing different this time? I handed it to him. He walked across the street. No audience, no friends watching, no phones filming. Just a boy, now a little more like a man, dropping something into the mailbox with both hands, like it mattered. He came back to me, stood tall. Me. You just mailed the original, the one that had your name, but you earned something more important. Jackson. What? Me. A chance to build something, the hard way. We walked back in silence. That evening I called Charles. Me. We may need to talk about reworking the trust again. Charles. Should I be concerned? Me. No, just might need 2 names now. He chuckled. Charles. I'll keep the pen warm. Later, I sat in the living room, envelope drawer still open. I took out Olivia's paper. Jackson's. Placed them side by side. And for the first time, it didn't feel like a choice. It felt like balance. The next chapter was no longer mine alone. The first snowfall came overnight. I woke up to the hush of white outside, the kind of quiet only fresh snow could bring. Streetlights cast a pale glow over the drifts, gathering on rooftops and parked cars. The bakery window had a faint frost on its corners. Someone had already shoveled the front walk. I had a feeling I knew who. When I arrived at 5:10 a.m., Jackson was already inside, apron on, sleeves rolled. He was measuring flour with precision, using the scale, not eyeballing. Olivia stood behind him, arms crossed, watching without saying much. Her silence meant approval. Me. Early bird. Jackson. Wanted to beat the cold. Me. That'll earn you more than heat. He smirked odd. The morning rush came quick. A school bus stalled across the street. Parents ducked into the shop, grabbing coffee with one hand, clutching book bags with the other. Jackson moved behind the counter like he belonged there. An older customer, Mrs. Hadley, came in. Regular since before Olivia was born. She leaned on her cane, eyes sharp. Mrs. Hadley. Where's that girl with the red hair? Me. Olivia's in the back, prepping for tomorrow's order. Mrs. Hadley squinted at Jackson. Mrs. Hadley. And who's this tall thing? Jackson. Jackson, ma'am. Gerald's grandson. She raised an eyebrow. Mrs. Hadley. The one who tossed the letter. He froze. Her voice wasn't angry, just matter of fact. Jackson. Yes, ma'am. She nodded slowly. Mrs. Hadley. Good. Just wanted to put a face to the mistake. Now go fix me a cranberry scone. No icing. He moved fast. She chuckled. Mrs. Hadley. He's learning. Me. He is. By noon, Olivia came out from the back, hair damp from steam, apron smudged. Olivia. Can we talk? I followed her into the storage room. She leaned against a stack of flour sacks, brushing powdered sugar from her jeans. Olivia. He's doing well. Better than I thought. Me. But? She sighed. Olivia. But it's been a week. 1 week of work doesn't erase what happened. He's not asking to erase it. He's trying to earn through it. She nodded, jaw tight. Olivia. Just don't forget who's been showing up for the last 4 years. Me. I haven't. Olivia. Okay. She didn't need to say more. I heard what she didn't say. Later that night, I sat with both trust documents again. Jackson's still unsigned. Olivia's notarized. A third one now sat in between. A blank draft. Just a heading. Joint successor agreement. I hadn't filled it out yet. The next few days passed with rhythm. Jackson handled deliveries. Olivia managed inventory. I supervised, watched, listened. Friday night, we closed shop early. A winter storm was coming in heavy. I handed Olivia the keys. Me. You're opening tomorrow. Olivia. Both of us? Me. Just you. Jackson looked surprised. Olivia didn't flinch. Me. He's earned some rest. You've earned the reins. Jackson stepped forward. Jackson. You sure? Me. You don't build legacy overnight. You build it on trust. The storm hit hard overnight. Wind screamed through the alleyways. Trees bent like they were praying. In the morning, I stayed in, made oatmeal, turned on the radio. They'd be fine. Mid-morning, my phone buzzed. A photo came through. Olivia and Jackson standing behind the counter, smiling. A snow day special sign behind them, with 2-for-1 muffins and a hand-drawn snowman. I smiled, but just then another message came in, this one from Emily. Emily, can we talk? I hesitated. I hadn't spoken to her properly since the trust revision. We'd traded a few sentences at family gatherings, all shallow and careful. But this felt different. Me, when and where? Emily, lunch, tomorrow, the church diner, noon. I agreed. The next day, I arrived early. The diner was quiet, the usual Sunday crowd still at service. A waitress refilled my coffee without asking. Emily walked in 5 minutes late. No makeup, coat too thin for the cold. She slid into the booth across from me. Emily, thank you for coming. Me, I figured it was time. She looked down at the table. Her fingers tapped lightly on the edge of her mug. Emily, I've been angry, not because of what you did, but because I didn't see it coming. Me, that was the point. A real test doesn't announce itself. Emily, Jackson's been different, quieter, more thoughtful. I barely recognize him, and that's not a bad thing. I didn't reply. Emily, I think you scared him. But more than that, I think you woke him up. Me, sometimes love looks like silence. She smiled faintly. Emily, you're thinking of adding him back in, aren't you? Me, I'm thinking of doing what's fair. Emily, fair to whom? I met her eyes. Me, to the bakery, to the legacy, to what Ruth and I built. She nodded slowly, bit her lip. Emily, just don't pit them against each other. Olivia and Jackson. That's all I ask. Me, I'm not. I'm showing them the value of partnership. She reached into her purse and placed something on the table, a small folded photo. It was of Jackson at the bakery, covered in flour, laughing, mid-shift. Emily, he sent this to me. First time he's ever looked proud in months. I held the photo for a moment. Me, pride earned is pride that lasts. The next morning I returned to Charles's office. Me, I'm ready to file the joint successor agreement. Charles. You sure? You're not required to. Me. I am. Not by law, by legacy. He retrieved the forms. I wrote the names myself. Successors. Olivia May Carter and Jackson Lee Reynolds I signed. He stamped. Charles. County Court Record, but 2025 CV 12051. Notarized. Filed. Outside, the sun was melting yesterday's snow into slush. The gutters ran with cold, dirty water. I stopped at the corner near the mailbox again, watched the runoff rush past the grates. I pulled the last spare envelope from my coat pocket. Blank, unsealed. I knelt carefully, lowered it into the water, and let it go. Then stood and walked back toward the bakery. The real weight wasn't what I had passed down. It was knowing they were finally ready to carry it. The bakery felt different now, not because the walls had changed or the menu had expanded, but because there was energy inside it. Purposeful, layered, grounded. Olivia and Jackson worked side by side, not just sharing tasks, but learning each other's rhythm. Mistakes happened, sure. Burned cookies, miscounted boxes, a dropped tray of cinnamon rolls. But nobody flinched. They corrected, cleaned up, moved on. That's how legacy is built. Not in perfection, in persistence. One Wednesday morning, I arrived earlier than usual. The city was waking up slow. Garbage trucks hissed in the alley, steam poured from the bakery's vents, and the air smelled like rain was coming. I found Jackson behind the register and Olivia going over invoices in the back. Jackson. Morning, Grandpa. Coffee's fresh. Me. You remembered? Jackson. Of course. He poured me a cup and leaned on the counter. Jackson. Been thinking about adding a student discount. High school kids stop in after classes. Might bring more traffic. Me. What would you offer? Jackson. 10% off drinks, or maybe a free cookie with 2 drinks. Gets more people inside. I nodded slowly. Me. Test it for a week. Track the numbers. Let data drive decisions. He smiled. Jackson. You sound like Olivia. Me. Good. You two balance each other. He glanced toward the back, lowered his voice. Jackson. She's intense. Me. She's careful. That's not the same thing. Later that day, I called Charles again. Me. We need to draft a partnership operating agreement. Charles. Between Jackson and Olivia? Me. Yes, 50-50 ownership of the bakery. Operational roles defined. Financial clauses structured. Charles. They're both so young. Me. So was I. And no one gave me a manual either. We scheduled the meeting for the following Tuesday. That Sunday, our family gathered again. This time at my place. Potluck style. Olivia brought a spinach quiche. Jackson made banana bread. Emily brought coleslaw from the store, still in its plastic tub. The house was warm with voices and the clink of dishes. After lunch, I stood. Me. I want to show you all something. They followed me into the den where I had set up a small table, a framed photo of Ruth in the center, and 2 stacks of paper on either side. Me. These are the bakery partnership contracts, signed, notarized, and filed. I turned to Olivia and Jackson. Me. As of this week, you're official co-owners of Carter and Reynolds Bakehouse. Olivia's mouth dropped open. Jackson froze. Olivia. You're serious? Me. Dead serious. 50-50. Equal say, equal weight. That includes the problems, not just the profits. Jackson. I don't know what to say. Me. Say it in your work, every day, like we've always done. Emily stood at the back, arms crossed, but her expression had softened. Mark clapped once, awkward but sincere. Later, after everyone had gone home, I sat in the kitchen with Olivia. She ran her fingers along the edge of the contract. Olivia. You didn't have to do this. Me. That's the point. Legacy isn't an obligation. It's a choice. She nodded slowly. Olivia. You think we'll make it? Me. You already are. The next few weeks moved fast. Jackson launched the student discount campaign. Olivia optimized the ordering system. Sales climbed slowly but steadily. The local high school drama club started holding meetings in the back booths on Thursdays. One night I walked in to find Olivia coaching Jackson through a bulk order spreadsheet. She had a red pen. He had a notepad. Jackson, this feels like college. Olivia, it's called accountability. They didn't notice I was watching from the doorway. The following Monday, I received a certified letter. It was from County Court. Final confirmation of the revised bakery ownership. County Court Record number 225 CV1219, signed by Notary Public. It was real now, not just in ink, in motion. Later that afternoon, I pulled out Ruth's recipe journal, the one we started together in '78. Yellowed pages, oil stains, handwriting fading in some places. I tucked it into a bag and headed for the bakery. They were closing up when I arrived. Me. I brought something. I placed the journal on the counter. Olivia gasped. Olivia. Is this? Me. Yes. Every original recipe. The ones Ruth and I tested, failed, and finally perfected. We wrote notes on who liked what, which batches flopped, which cookies sold out. Jackson reached forward at Jackson. This belongs here. Me. Not to the bakery, to you both. They flipped through the pages like they were sacred, and they were. That night I passed the old corner again. The gutter where Jackson dropped the envelope weeks ago was cleaner now, not spotless, but better. I stopped and stood there. A jogger passed. A man walked his dog. Life went on. I reached into my coat one last time and pulled out a new envelope. This one wasn't blank. Inside was a letter. My handwriting, addressed to them both. I placed it gently in the mailbox, watched it slide in. Some letters get delivered in silence, some in time. Thanksgiving came early that year, not on the calendar, but in spirit. The bakery had doubled its pie orders, and by the second week of November, the prep area looked like a pastry battlefield. Pumpkin, pecan, apple, every surface dusted in flour, every oven slot filled. Jackson handled the customer calls. Olivia ran the kitchen like a general, firm, focused, calm under pressure. I stayed out of their way, mostly. But that Wednesday morning, just before the holiday, I arrived at opening. Not to check in, but to contribute. Me. You're both doing good work. Thought I'd deliver a few reminders. Olivia. Reminders? I held up 2 small index cards, the kind Ruth used to pin over the cash register. One said, "People buy with memory, not money." The other, "Don't forget the regulars. They're our bread and butter." Jackson chuckled. Jackson. These Ruths? Me. She never ran out of phrases. I placed them gently above the espresso machine. The metal was still warm from the morning brew. Olivia. We should frame these. Me. Frame the work first, then the words. That night, Emily called again. Emily. Can we talk in person? Me. About what? Emily. About Mom. I didn't speak for a moment. Me. Come by. She arrived with 2 cups of peppermint tea. It used to be Ruth's favorite during the holidays. We sat in the living room. The walls were decorated with faded garland, early even for my standards. But it felt right. Emily. I've been thinking about her lately. Me. I always think about her around this time. Emily. Do you think she'd be proud of how it turned out? With Jackson? The bakery? I didn't answer right away. Me. She'd be proud that I didn't give up on either. Emily. She always said you were too soft. Me. She said I loved too hard. Emily smiled at that. A full, soft smile I hadn't seen in years. Emily. I'm glad you didn't let him sink. I was ready to. Me. You're allowed to falter. I'm allowed to anchor. She reached into her coat pocket and handed me a folded paper. Emily, I found this in Mom's Bible. It was a short note, written in Ruth's familiar script. If they ever forget who they are, remind them who we were. I placed the note on the table and let the silence do its work. Thanksgiving Day, the bakery stayed closed. First time in 20 years. I insisted. Family came first. We hosted it at Olivia's loft. Small, cozy, the smell of cinnamon baked into the walls. A folding table stretched across the room, barely enough chairs for everyone, and that was perfect. Jackson brought the turkey, overcooked but proudly carved. Olivia baked the pies, perfectly. We all ate too much. Midway through dessert, I raised my glass. Me. I want to say something. Forks dropped. Conversations hushed. Me. This year has been unexpected. For all of us. I lost something in the street, but I gained something bigger in this room. Eyes turned toward Jackson and Olivia. Me. You two built something together. Not just a business, a balance. And that means more than any trust could ever offer. Olivia blinked quickly. Jackson rubbed the back of his neck. Me. And if Ruth were here, my voice caught for the briefest second. Me. She'd say it's about time. Everyone laughed softly. Emily raised her glass. Emily. To legacy. The table echoed the toast. Later that night, after everyone left, I walked the short block to the corner again. Snow was falling, light and dry. The street was empty, the mailbox quiet. I sat on the nearby bench. Jackson found me there 15 minutes later, holding 2 cups of hot cocoa. Jackson, you keep coming here. Why? Me, this is where I saw your character, before you even knew you had one. He sat beside me. I hate that I messed up. Me, good. It means you care. Jackson, do you think one moment defines a person? Me, no. I think how they respond to that moment does. He nodded. Passed me the second cup. Jackson, I'm not done learning. Me, then I'm not done teaching. A car passed. The headlights stretched across the pavement like theater lights. Me, you know what Ruth always said about snow? Jackson, what? Me, it covers everything, but it hides nothing. He sipped quietly, letting the words settle. Me, one day this bakery, this whole thing, it'll be yours and Olivia's entirely. And I'll just be a memory in the corner. Jackson, you'll never just be a memory. Me, that's not up to me. He looked at me then, really looked. Jackson, I won't forget what you did, or what I did. Me, good. Forgetting's the fastest way to ruin something. We sat there until the cocoa cooled, the snow deepened, and the silence felt full instead of empty. Winter came hard that year. By mid-December, the streets of Chicago were buried in slush, salt, and the sighs of people who couldn't wait for spring. Wind scraped against the windows like it had claws, and every trip outside felt like walking through memory, cold, sharp, honest. Inside the bakery, though, it was warmth. The ovens never stopped. Holiday orders flooded in. The countertop overflowed with handwritten notes, special requests, and neighborhood donations for the toy drive Olivia had organized without telling anyone. I watched from the corner, usually with a mug of coffee and the old recipe journal on my lap. I didn't interfere. I didn't need to. One morning, just after New Year's, Olivia called a staff meeting. Olivia, we're expanding. The room blinked. Jackson looked at her like she'd just spoken a foreign language. Olivia, I found a space 2 blocks down. It used to be a dry cleaner. Has plumbing, square footage, and good foot traffic. Jackson, you're serious? Olivia, very. Jackson, what's the plan? Olivia pulled out a binder. Olivia, catering division, separate production kitchen, event-based packaging, local school contracts. I've already done the math. Everyone looked at me. Me. Why are you looking at me? I'm retired. Olivia, you're never retired. I smiled. Me. Then make sure the drywall isn't hiding any mold. That location had water issues 10 years ago. Jackson, you remember that? Me. I remember everything. They toured the location the next day, brought back photos, measurements, a contractor's estimate. Olivia had already applied for the permits. Jackson started sketching layout ideas on the back of the supply invoices. It moved faster than I expected. Too fast. One evening, I pulled Olivia aside. Me, You've got drive, that's not the problem. But ambition without pace? That breaks things. Olivia. You think I'm rushing? Me. I think you're racing yourself, and that's not who we serve. She looked down, then nodded. Olivia. You're right. Me. You'll still do it. Just breathe while you're building. Meanwhile, Jackson had started coming by my house once a week. No announcement, no reason, sometimes with groceries, sometimes just to sit. We didn't always talk. One evening he asked, Jackson, do you ever regret it? Changing the trust? Me. Not for a second. Jackson. Even with how everything turned out? Me. Especially because of how it turned out. He didn't reply, but I could see the weight lifting behind his eyes. Emily called again in January. Emily, you free next week? Me. What's the occasion? Emily. Jackson's birthday. 18. That gave me pause. Me. He's not a boy anymore. Emily. No, he's not. The party was small. Just family. Cake from the bakery. Jackson didn't want a big celebration. He said it felt wrong after everything. Halfway through the evening, he stood up and tapped a glass. Jackson, I don't usually say much. I still don't. But I need to say this. The room quieted. Jackson, I threw away something I didn't understand. Not just the letter, but the trust behind it. The person behind it. I thought respect was something you demanded. Now I know it's something you reflect. He looked at me. Jackson, Grandpa, I still think about that day. What I did. The sound of the envelope slipping through the grate. It never leaves me. Me. That's the lesson. Jackson, and this, everything we have now, it came from that mistake. So, thank you for letting me fail, and thank you for not letting me stay failed. No one said a word for a moment, not out of discomfort, just reverence. Emily wiped her eyes. Later that night, after the guests left, Jackson helped me put away the chairs. Me. You've come a long way. Jackson. Still got farther to go. Me. Good. Stay curious. He looked around the room. Jackson. What do I do when you're not here to guide me? Me. You'll remember. It's already in you. The next morning, I walked down to the mailbox. Same one, same street, same cold air. But something was taped to the side this time. A note. Handwritten. Don't worry, Grandpa. I've got it from here. No name, no signature. Just the words. I stood there longer than I expected. Let the wind wrap around me. Then walked home. Inside, I opened the drawer where the last envelope had been. It was empty now. And that felt right. February came with gray skies and sidewalks dusted in leftover salt. The kind of cold that made your bones creak and your memory sharper. I found myself waking earlier than usual, not from obligation, but from a quiet restlessness I couldn't shake. The bakery's expansion was nearly complete. The catering kitchen had passed inspection, the new equipment had arrived, and Olivia was already fielding requests for wedding orders and retirement parties. Jackson handled the logistics, delivery routes, supplier renegotiations, the boring parts of growth that no one celebrates, but everyone depends on. I sat at the window of the original shop most mornings. Just a customer now, a quiet one. Olivia always poured my coffee before I asked. Jackson always wiped the table near me twice. Rituals. That's how we hold on to things without having to say them out loud. One morning, Olivia placed a folded paper beside my mug. Olivia. Design mock-ups for the new signage. Want your eyes on it. Me. Whose name's on the front? She hesitated. Olivia. Carter and Reynolds, but smaller this time. We thought maybe the name didn't need to shout anymore. I unfolded the sketch. Simple, elegant, a wheat stalk in the corner. The year we opened, 1980, stitched into the base like a quiet heartbeat. Me. You two are making it your own. Olivia. With your handwriting still under it all. That afternoon, I found Jackson in the back room, going through invoices. Me. You busy? Jackson. Always. but not too busy. I handed him a box. Me. Found this in the garage. Thought you might want it. He opened it slowly. Inside was the bakery's first cash register receipt. Faded, torn. A receipt for a cinnamon roll and a small coffee. Total, $1.10. Name scribbled in the corner, Mrs. Lovett. Jackson. She's still around? Me. Passed in 97, but she came in every morning for 5 years straight. He held the slip like it was glass. Jackson. I'll frame it. Me. Don't. Keep it messy. Let it smell like time. That night, I called Charles again. Me. I'm ready. Charles. You sure this time? Me. Yes. Transfer everything. Full ownership. Olivia and Jackson. I'm stepping away for good. Charles. I'll file it in the morning. You want to be there when they sign? Me. No. Let them do it on their own. I've said enough. We finalized the paperwork 3 days later. County Court Record 2025 CV.266, signed by Notary Public, just like the others. Except this time, my name was nowhere on the last page. And that was the right way. I stopped going in daily. Let the shop breathe without me. Still walked by sometimes. Watched from the bench. Saw them handle a burst pipe without panic. Watched Olivia train a new hire. Watched Jackson fix a mistake on a customer receipt with grace and no excuses. One afternoon, I found a package on my doorstep. No return label. Inside was a leather-bound book. On the front, the letter that built a bakery. I opened it. The first page, a printed photo of that old street corner. The gutter, the mailbox, the same gray sidewalk. Below it, Jackson's handwriting. You taught us to lose something small to keep something lasting. This is for you. Every page after that was a story. A photo of the expansion ribbon cutting. A letter from Olivia about the day she cried in the stockroom after a vendor bailed. A thank you note from a high school student who got his first job there. Recipes, receipts, memories pressed into paper. On the last page, taped neatly, was a printout of the county court record. Highlighted in yellow, this confirms full ownership transfer of Carter and Reynolds Bakehouse to Jackson Reynolds and Olivia Carter, equal partners. Below it, 2 signatures. No space left for mine. I sat back in my chair, the weight of the book in my lap. It didn't feel like an ending. It felt like an echo, the kind that hums through your chest long after the sound is gone. Later that week, I walked back to that corner. Same bench, same mailbox. There was a young man nearby, holding a paper bag. Nervous, a woman beside him, smiling, holding his arm. He knelt down, pulled out a small box, proposed. She said yes. I smiled. Sometimes the street where something ends becomes the street where something else begins. I stood slowly, joints aching. A woman passing by looked at me, then glanced at the mailbox. Stranger. You waiting for a letter? Me. No, ma'am. I already received the only one that ever mattered. She kept walking. Snow fell gently. I tucked my hands into my coat and turned for home. Behind me, the wind kicked up for just a second, and I thought, just maybe, I heard Ruth's laugh in it. Spring arrived slower than usual, the kind of spring that didn't rush in with blooming flowers or loud colors, but tiptoed back into the city with soft rains, and windows cracked open just an inch. Pigeons returned to the rooftop above the bakery. So did the hum of sidewalk chatter, the scent of warm pastries floating into the street. I didn't visit as often anymore. Didn't need to. I passed by once or twice a week, nodded to customers I used to greet daily. Some recognized me, some didn't. That was fine. I'd become part of the foundation, still there, but silent now. One morning I found myself outside the shop, just looking, watching. Jackson was inside, wiping down the glass case. Olivia knelt beside a young employee, showing her how to tape bakery boxes with tight corners. Someone dropped a handful of change at the counter, and both of them smiled without missing a beat. That rhythm, ours once, was now theirs. I walked away before anyone saw me. At home, I spent more time by the garden. Ruth's garden, really. The tulips she planted had started breaking through the soil again. It surprised me how persistent they were, quietly returning year after year without asking permission. That afternoon, I heard a knock at the door. Jackson. Me. Didn't expect you today. Jackson. I brought something. He handed me a small parcel, wrapped in brown paper and string. I opened it slowly. Inside was a framed photo. It was the bakery, taken from across the street. Morning light spilling through the window. Two silhouettes inside, him and Olivia, both leaning over the counter, laughing. In the corner of the frame, etched into the wood, where it was lost, where it was found. Me. You made this? Jackson. We had it done for the new office, but Olivia said it should live with you first. I traced the edge with my finger. Me. It's beautiful. Jackson looked around my living room, eyes landing on a stack of old ledgers, Ruth's recipe journal, a box of photo negatives I never developed. Jackson. You ever think about writing it all down? The whole story? Me. Not my story anymore. Jackson. Still started with you. Me. Started with a letter. Jackson. A test. Me. And a choice. He nodded. Jackson. We're planning a community event. 5-year anniversary for the bakery's relaunch. Thought maybe you'd speak. Me. You sure anyone wants to hear from an old man? Jackson. You're not just an old man. You're the reason it's still standing. I agreed to come, not to speak, just to listen. The event took place in early May, a clear blue Saturday. Tents lined the sidewalk. Tables held cookies with custom frosting that read CNR 5 years. Kids decorated cupcakes, while their parents sipped lemonade. A jazz trio played outside. Nothing loud, just texture. They called me up near the end. I didn't prepare a speech. I never liked scripts. I stepped up with a mic and looked at faces. New, old, and somewhere in between. Me. I used to think legacy was about what you leave behind, but it's not. It's about what you hand forward. I paused. Me. One day I gave a letter to someone I loved. He threw it away. And because of that mistake, he learned how to hold something. I looked at Jackson and Olivia, both standing at the back, arms folded, proud. Me. This place doesn't belong to me anymore, but it still carries my name. Not because I kept it, but because I let go of it. I handed the mic back and walked off stage. As the crowd clapped, I felt something I hadn't felt in years. Not pride, not relief, peace. After the event, Jackson and Olivia joined me at the corner. That same street, same mailbox. The grate had been cleaned recently, the rust replaced with fresh paint. The city must have finally repaired it. Jackson reached into his coat and pulled out an envelope. Jackson. Thought I'd return the favor. He handed it to me. I opened it. Inside was a simple letter. Dear Grandpa, you taught me more with silence than I ever learned from noise. Thank you for letting me lose, and for giving me space to come back. This bakery isn't just our future. It's your forgiveness, baked into every loaf. Love, Jackson. I folded the letter. Didn't speak. Didn't need to. He placed his arm around my shoulder as we stood there. Olivia joined us a moment later. She held a fresh cinnamon roll, Ruth's original recipe, still warm. We ate it right there on the curb. 3 generations, 1 street. No audience, no applause. Just the quiet legacy of a letter lost and a future found. If this story struck a chord, hit like, subscribe, and tell me what you think in the comments.